We're now seeing a backlash on ChatGPT and other AI tools, and wow, this came quick. And we're going to explore the topic on the next episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. I'm Keith Shaw, host of Today in Tech. We are joined today by Jason Mars, PhD, Associate Professor of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Michigan. So go blue. I got that right?
Yes.
All right. Jason is also the acting co-director of UM's Clarity Lab, which directs advanced research within AI, large-scale computing, and coding. And he's also the author of the book, Breaking Bots, Inventing a New Voice in the AI Revolution. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, this week there were a bunch of stories that I want to sort of bring up. The story by CNBC. Bring this one up, Chris. The ChatGPT AI hype cycle is now peaking, but even the tech skeptics don't expect a bust. And then we also saw the New York Times columnist Kevin Roose write a story about this really bizarre conversation that he had with Bing's chatbot. And as everybody knows, Microsoft integrated ChatGPT into its Bing search engine. Last week, they had this big event. They were hyping it up, saying, like, this is the future of chat, even though you got to be on the wait list. But, some people were able to jump the wait list ahead of others. I haven't gotten my invitation yet. Did you get yours? Have you gotten yours yet, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So I'm on the waiting list still.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They have this. They have this screen where you can do certain things to get higher in the waiting list.
Yeah.
You can, make it your default browser and download the app. So I didn't do all of those things.
Right.
And so I think I'm still in waiting list land.
Yeah, the first thing it asked me was like, hey, do you want to, well, I had to sign in under my Microsoft account. And then, so the first thing I had to do was actually remember what my password was for the Microsoft account. And then second was, hey, make Bing your default browser. And I'm like, nope, done. Or default search engine. I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
And then it was like,
it's too many steps,
and then it was like, then install the app on your phone. I'm like, no, sorry.
Exactly.
I'm willing to wait in the line.
No, but honestly, I got to tell you, I think this is an incredibly brilliant move by Microsoft. I mean, so they recently did that $10 billion deal, incredibly visionary.
Yep.
Given that, they can be first to market, truly first to market with this kind of large language model at the scale of Bing. But it was super clever because this is a special moment where they can really maximize the disruption of Google. And so, making you really transition and onboard into their product ecosystem, and using the carrot of getting to use this next gen tech is just brilliant, and it's impressive.
It definitely freaked out Google, right? Because Google, they said, well, we've got AI, and they take it out of their back pocket. Like, hey, we've got this too, and they call it Bard, which again, I really want to ask someone at Google why they came up with that name. Because I just think of D&D, and in D&D, it's the one character class you never want to play, because you just think of someone strumming a lute and singing a song.
Yeah, I mean, I spent some time at Google, man. The culture is, so Bard probably was conjured up by an engineer, right? And it when it comes to the marketing, efficacy, and all those things, like the processes, like engineers they have a culture of engineers really making a lot of these calls, and so they could have probably done something better than Bard.
So when they launched that, and then the first thing like they did was they showed an ad of how it worked, and it got the telescope wrong. The James Webb Space Telescope. There was a fact on there that their chat AI thing could, and it was wrong. And so the stock market reacted, and they lost $100 billion of value. And there was a story this week in Ars Technica about how Google employees are really mad at the CEO for kind of rushing it and being very un-Google like. So it's like, I mean, they're definitely nervous.
Yeah, no, and for good reason, man. I mean, the thing is, conversational AI has been in the consciousness of the market since Siri, right? Siri was the first time it was teleported into everyone's expectations, and everybody has been disappointed and under-impressed or unimpressed for a long time. Alexa, set a timer. Okay, that doesn't seem very intelligent. And then, for the first moment, we had a conversational AI that captivated the imaginations of everyone. I mean, it was preceded by GPT-3, which was the big technological realization of what was possible when you trained massive models at the tune of $5 million plus. And then ChatGPT was the first realization of the thing that it blew everyone away.
Right.
And so the wild thing about it, though, and I really feel for Google, is the key technology that underlies a ChatGPT was actually invented at Google.
Wow.
They brought to market this. Researchers at Google came up with this transformer neural network, which was the kind of neural network that makes this technology possible. And they kind of had it in-house, and for many, many years, they published papers on it. They celebrated it as an AI contribution from an intellectual realm, but they didn't really move fast enough to cultivate it to the point where it's able to create such a compelling experience. OpenAI did that with the technology that Google innovated. And so it's with this amount of widespread appetite creation and the realization of the appetite, Google had to move very fast, especially when you hear these billion-dollar deals coming from Microsoft to get exclusive rights to productize these technologies. Google knows what this could mean for search as a technology.
Do you think that companies like Microsoft and Google are the right sort of companies to bring us to that next level of conversational AI, or do we need more startups and those types of companies to really push the envelope? Because it seems like these are two huge missteps for Google and Microsoft. We didn't even get into the whole chat conversation that they had with the New York Times guy yet. Yeah,
exactly. Which we totally got to chat about. But when it comes to the possibility that is ChatGPT that's been realized is something that is incredibly expensive to hone and cultivate. Indeed, a lot of folks call it space flight type projects, right? Where you invest lots of money to train a neural network one time. You train it on the internet, basically. You crawl the internet, you give this model the internet, you train it on thousands of computers, millions of dollars of compute. And so in a lot of ways, the creation and cultivation of this technology is not democratized. It's not the case that a small startup or a not well-funded outfit can actually do the training to get these technologies to the point where they are. So we can only rely on large companies and also incredibly well-funded companies. Like OpenAI was a startup, but Elon Musk started them off with $1 billion. You know what I mean? And so they had $1 billion to go play. I mean, the mandate of OpenAI was just do research for the world and show us what's possible. And so they used that money to do this kind of large scale, high effort model training that gave us a ChatGPT. And so right now it would be somewhat infeasible for a small startup to try something different and train it at the scale of the models that fuel ChatGPT.
So do you feel like then that these missteps are just like small little blips and they'll get their act together and then kind of push us to the next level?
Yeah. So these missteps, I mean, it's not surprising to me, right? Because essentially what these models are doing, they're not thinking per se, but what they do, the way they're trained is by generating a response word by word. And every time they generate a new word of that response, they look at everything generated before and all of the conversation that happened before to pick the most likely accurate word based on the consciousness of the internet. So it's a writer. It's writing, and it's writing word by word with statistical probabilities, determining what word is happening next. So it doesn't really know what it's saying. It's just so good at continuing the pattern of what should be said next, word by word, based on the consciousness of the internet, that it generates that word. Now, there's a number of things you need to do to get it to guardrail it from saying weird things or get in loops or get tricked up. And that's it's almost an art they call prompt engineering, but it really means you almost have to guide it with with some preamble, right? And some of this happens in the background. When you ask a question, there's some systems that might produce text to start it off, like starter text. And then you can constrain its output. So you could really have to put these tight guardrails. And I think what's happening with the missteps is the model is a part of the solution that creates that end user experience. And another part is how do you guardrail it? And it's almost certainly the case that the ChatGPT that you would get from OpenAI has different guardrails and prompt engineering solutions that can curtail how far off to the deep end it can go. And Microsoft moving so quickly, I could imagine that there was a lot of engineers that had to push things out very quickly to capitalize on this moment. And the process of improving those guardrails for a model like ChatGPT is something that we'll see over time. But the speed to market is really why we're seeing these missteps. It's not the case that the AI necessarily is broken or weak. It's just not being steered with this piece of the system that generates the prompts to start it off.
Right. Now, were you surprised by how quickly sort of this backlash has happened?
Not at all.
Really? Because it does feel like in a normal hype cycle that you do stay at hype for a while before you start getting disillusioned. It felt like it was like 1 week it was up and then this week it stinks. And
exactly.
It's amazing how quickly the negatives have ramped up. So, but you're not surprised about this. How come?
No, not at all. Actually, I mean, it's totally expected. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that the good news was around for so long, and that's because it's cool, right? Because I think we got the most authentic reaction from the media when they first reacted, because it was so mind blowing. They just had to tell the world a really true story about how mind blowing this is. But just given the nature of what gets clicks, like. The bad news, the good news could only interest people so long. You can't have an article like, oh, I'm still using ChatGPT and it's still amazing. It's like, no, we've got to have a story. We've got to have some drama. Right. And so it's a part of the kind of the market of readers would almost call for, well, tell me the scandalous stuff, or tell me, show me like it breaking, right?
And that's good,
not surprising.
From the media side of things. It's a good thing that the media is sort of like it's sort of like they're testing, they're poking it and seeing what pops out. And so early stories about there's still some bias issues, right? There's still some, it's not perfect, and even the CEO of OpenAI is backpedaling a little bit. I think he was quoted as saying like, it's not a great product yet. Like it's so he's trying to like temper the enthusiasm for this. But the media is poking, and I think it's a good thing for the media to keep poking at it, because otherwise, like that's the best way to get it to improve, right?
Yeah, and it's also incredibly important that we call upon the public to be thoughtful and not over, be thoughtful about this technology. Understand that you can't rely on it as a truth speaker, right? Because if you poke at it in certain ways, it'll tell you nonsense or it'll tell you untruths. It's important to have the media able to communicate that to the masses in a more effective way than, say, a CEO just saying, "Hey guys, slow down." But we need to really, really know so that the public doesn't misuse the technology, right? Go to the technology for truth, to solve all arguments, to know what directions to take real policies, right? There's a tendency to be too optimistic about these models and think it has the answers to our hard problems, and that would be a mistake.
Well, I'll give you an example of something that I did this week. I was looking to bake some chicken in my oven, and we got the chicken at the meat counter, but I couldn't remember like what temperature and how long to cook it. It was panko chicken. Normally, so if you look this up in Google, like how to, what temperature do I need to cook this panko chicken? And you get a list of like 30,000 recipes. And I'm like, I don't want recipes. I just want the answer. I just want, or the answer that they gave me was just based on one recipe that they found, or the highest ranking recipe that they had. Whereas then I went to ChatGPT it said, 425 for 20 to 25 minutes. And then it gave me a list of other things like make sure you don't overcook it, make sure you don't undercook it. All of these things that I know as a human, I do know already.
Exactly.
But it did sort of give me truth. And again, I guess I believed it because the chicken came out fine and I didn't get sick and it wasn't dry. So right.
And for many common things. I mean, one of the ways you can kind of use a heuristic to know when something like ChatGPT is likely to succeed is how prevalent is this information in the consciousness of the internet. Now, the power of a ChatGPT and the reason it's going to disrupt search forever, like search is really old tech at this moment forward. But the reason is it in search, you're searching for a web page that might have your answers. Your question might span multiple pages. That's incredibly laborious and painful. And you have to integrate your understanding from those disparate pages and search results rankings.
Right.
The power of this tech is that it compresses all of that knowledge and integrates it into a single consciousness that you can conversationally engage. So you get precisely your information right away. And when you should be more confident in what it's telling you is when it's information you would expect the internet to have a lot of knowledge about, right? So like the do's and don'ts of cooking a particular a dish, if it's, curry chicken,
right?
You could expect that, in the consciousness of the internet, GPT probably learned really well this information. But if you ask about a really exotic dish where there might be one page on the entire internet about, then you'd have to be a little bit concerned because it might use things integrated from something similar that's actually wrong for that specific thing.
And I think that was the case in some of the people that were asking about, like, where does, how old is someone? And the consciousness thought, this person was this old when they were in fact a different age because that incorrect information had been put into sort of the data set, right?
Right. Yeah. And if there's names, if on the internet, there's a similar name that many different people have, it may integrate information from different sources, right? So if you ask something about William Burr, something precise about William Burr, and maybe the consciousness of the internet knows it about the William Burr you're likely to mean, but maybe in generating that response, it throws in something about a less known William Burr that isn't relevant. And so understanding that that's an issue is really important when you engage these technologies for truth.
Yeah, I remember when Google came out, everyone started Googling their name to see what information that Google had on it. And with my name, there was like 7 different Keith Shaws that do all sorts of different things, including this guy in England who flies model helicopters. But I haven't thought about this yet. I should probably go onto ChatGPT and see if it knows me or not yet. I don't know. I mean, 17 different things. Yeah. Have you done that? Have you done that with your name?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've totally done it. Actually, and I've tried it with a couple names. I was very honored that ChatGPT actually knows it kind of knows things about me, and which was awesome. But and then some names not so much. But it's very it's very important that knowing that it could sprinkle things in from other sources is very important as we use these technologies.
Okay.
Because the use cases are wild, right? Like there's a crisis going on right now in education at all levels in our university.
Yep.
At University of Michigan, there's special sessions where the Honor Council wants to understand how to reason about this technology being a part of our ecosystem now. Like students are using it to generate essays and to generate reports, right? And it works very well with popular topics, and so as you use these things, having a human in the loop that at least edits it, I think, is a must.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
What's your opinion on that? Because I've now talked to 2 different. I've talked to a professor who uses ChatGPT in his classes, and then I've talked to another IT administrator at another university, and they've got professors that are trying to prevent the use of it because they don't want people cheating. Like, what's the opinion? Like, what's your opinion? And then does it match of what University of Michigan is doing?
Yeah, no, well, so I tend to have the opinion that may be less intuitive. Like, so I actually believe that we should be instructing our students to use ChatGPT to solve problems,
Yep.
and then providing the oversight of how to solve those problems. I mean, we had this issue before, right? When the internet came to the fore and we had good search engines, there was a time you actually had to go to libraries to do book reports, right? Like you'd have to go do research, real research to find answers because there wasn't a search. And it would be folly for a professor, post having the search era to say, okay, please don't use Google. I want you to go to a library, check out 7 books, read those books, and get the answer. It's you're trying to resist the evolution of our times, and we need to as a society understand how we, in a healthy and forward-looking way, how we integrate these new technologies and change our pedagogy, change how we teach, change the expectations of what the students must do and what the students can rely on technology to do, because in the real world, that's what they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And preparing them for that is really the mission. So I really believe in an integrative approach, and adapting ourselves around the new norms, rather than try to suppress the new norms to keep our old ways,
And I think you answered this before, but I want to just ask it again. Like, why is there such a rush to integrate the generative AI into search? It didn't feel like initially that, generating content is different from search. Like, so why did you see them, like both Google and Microsoft, quickly? Because I think Microsoft also wants to put it into their Office apps as well, and the whole corporate app area is something that they want to do. Is it just because they see the value of it and they want to generate some profits out of it, or is there a natural sort of meshing between the two technologies?
Yeah, no, well, so this is one of those cases where it's a perfect technology because it increases convenience and it increases productivity. The day that ChatGPT made it open, OpenAI made it open, I got on, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I just played with it. And then from that day on, I have it up as I'm working, as I'm coding, because I do a lot of development of software. I always have it up, and I go there instead of going to Stack Overflow or going to Google to get my answers. It is because I can precisely ask exactly what I need and get it right away. It saves me, instead of spending 15 minutes researching how to solve a problem, I literally spend 15 seconds getting exactly the answer I need. So it's a spike in productivity. And a lot of people had this reaction when they tinkered with it. Of course, the leaders and the executives of these companies know that the whole purpose of the internet and search is to help people get access to the information they need. And this is so good at that. And it's so much fundamentally better for, let's say, 70%, I'm just pulling that number out, 70% of the use case of Google. It's so much better at that.
Yeah.
That it's the biggest opportunity in the world. Google is on like the number 5 company in our market economy, our global economy, because of search. So an opportunity to capitalize on one of the most important and profitable technologies, and it's a technology that gives you access to information, to have that in front of you means you need to capitalize on it yesterday, right? So everyone's rushing to get all of the society to use their product because of the lock-in effect, right? If Bing gets a lot of people to start with set Bing up as their default because ChatGPT is there, those folks are going to be locked in. And even if Google over 3 years figures it out, Google is going to become the Bing, right? Because Bing figured it out late. Nobody was using Bing. Everybody was on Google. Yeah. And so this is why there's so much effort to get there, as soon as possible.
I'm wondering if this means that maybe Ask Jeeves will come back and or Alta Vista. Like,
exactly.
Why did it have to be Bing? Like,
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I know, right? But if you see, the thing is, Ask Jeeves, it's a great idea. They just didn't have the technology to do it well enough. Yeah. But
all right. And so, so the next question then becomes like, will we start seeing these things will we start seeing this technology in things like robots and other physical devices? I mean, obviously it's going to be on your phone, and that's a physical device. But what I really want to see, I've covered robotics for a few years too. I would love to see sort of a mobile humanoid robot. I go into a store and I ask it a question, and it tells me exactly where I need, or it brings me to the place where I want to get the thing in the store. That that's just one example. But customer service robots so far have been horrible. It would be great to actually integrate this in.
Exactly.
Like, is it just that we're not there yet, and we will get there, or is there just not a business opportunity?
Well, so here's the interesting thing, right? And it is a nuanced answer, right? So, and by the way, that use case is perfect. I go to during Black Friday, I'll go to Best Buy. Yep. I need to get the Nintendo Switch. Like, why do I have to wait for that human to explain the TV to someone in front of me before I can just know where if there's any in stock, right?
Yeah.
Like, why don't we have that use case? Well, here's the reality. Now, a lot of the technology, a lot of the products, technologies where the creators, the producers of society focuses attention usually comes from the market appetite, right? So now we're going to see a surge in that appetite for these use cases. Now that the art of the possible is so manifest in everyone's face, those kinds of questions are going to be asked not just by us consumers, but by the next founders, by venture capitalists, by the consciousness of the public is now focused on the possibilities that this creates. So that's going to create an economic energy to produce new products and creations and advance that. So we're going to see a lot of these things get a lot of energy in the coming near-term years. Now, another important nuance to understand is the ChatGPT technology itself is great for being a question answering system that can integrate a lot of data into one knowledge.
Yep.
Right. So there's use cases like how to navigate your supermarket to find the item on what shelf, kiosk that you might talk to. Like that use case may not be able to benefit from a ChatGPT because the information it needs is very specific to that particular store.
Okay.
And so you might need to use other technologies. Now, the good news is the same neural network technology that's in ChatGPT is present in many, many other places at different sizes and scales, at sizes that you can wield and train to solve specific problems. And so there's going to be many, many innovative solutions coming to the fore because it's no secret how ChatGPT works for the technologists and the intellectuals. And we can replicate now some of the methodology that made it so smart in smaller models for specific use cases. And that's an area that I'm actually spending a lot of time on now myself.
Do you think that then this becomes something where it gets maybe integrated into an Amazon Alexa or the Google Home sort of voice assistant, Siri and Cortana, as opposed to search? Because instead of, like you mentioned Alexa before, you're like, hey, set a timer. It was like that's what I use it for mainly, and to listen to music. But
exactly.
It's like, but imagine having an actual conversation with, we actually get closer to that Jarvis world, right? From Iron Man, where he's running everything, or the AI is doing all of these different things. Do you see that? Yeah. That's probably going to happen before other types of physical
I'm sure they've spooled up. There's spooled up teams working on it right now. Like the one of the key lessons that came from GPT-3 and ChatGPT now is that, and people are talking to people, it's generative AI, right? So it's a special approach to how you can build a system. It's that generate a word by word, and produce this answer. They call it in an auto-regressive way. It means you look at what you said so far to predict what you say next. That particular technique is not how Alexa's, all of these conversational AIs have really worked. They're usually these dialogue systems with something they call intense, and you extract slots. So you'll kind of figure out, well, what are the parameters I need to hit an API with in what you said? It was a different approach that really these technologies were created with. And it's why it's part of the reason they kind of sucked, is because everybody was thinking in that approach, and all the products you have pre this revolution that's happening right now were kind of built in that way. But now people have seen proof points as to what's possible in the generative way
Yeah.
to create a dialogue system, which isn't, it's not obvious, right? Just looking at how the models work, that you could create a dialogue system with just this generative model. So now that work is already started. Everyone's aligning. I've been interacting with a lot of folks. Everyone is aligning what they investigate next around, well, what can these generative models do in many different cases? And so the next version of many of these products are going to use generative model technologies. I'm confident.
Yeah. Now we've talked. Obviously, you're optimistic about this technology. I can tell because you're very, you're very excited about all of this stuff. But on the flip side, we've also seen some sort of dark or not so good purposes for it. You hear about that. People are using it to generate malware or write code or provide a better email sentence for phishing attempts. Because again, with phishing, you could always know, oh, this is not real. It's not even correct English. And now that's all out of here. Now I got to be suspicious of everything that I get, and not just my filter now has to be tuned as well. So like what do you feel about some of the bad uses? Is it again find the bad stuff so that we can fix it, or generate tools to spot the bad stuff?
Yeah. Well, it's always a tools arms race when you have there's nefarious folks out there that will take every possible technology and tool and see how it can make them more effective and efficient. At phishing attacks, hacking, you'll find these things used everywhere. But and also it's just not even beyond that. When it comes to fake news, like it's incredibly, you can give it a headline to write a story about, and it'll write you a compelling story with that headline in it. Oh, Biden just I don't know,
just make up your
nuked something,
whoever,
and then you'll have a compelling right. So there's all these kinds of things that we need to now be educated and aware of as to how nefarious use cases could work. And the good news is, actually, ChatGPT, the motivation for the technological advancement of ChatGPT was to develop technologies to help when it comes to the safety of how these models are being used. I believe, and I haven't verified this, but I believe it's almost an accident, and the CEO kind of indicated this, it's almost an accident as to how us trying to develop technologies to make it smarter so it could be safe turned it into being smarter in many ways. And the very fascinating thing that's going on right now is there's a lot of energy being invested in how do we design AI models that can control or detect other models, right? You can actually use models, you can train models that can find nefarious use cases, that can detect when an AI wrote this and not a human.
Right.
And so we've got an interesting, you can build tools to make the model safer that are other AIs. And that's happening all the time.
Right.
It's happening right.
So there'll be some sort of like signature form or something that says like, oh, this was created by an AI, right? Like that's a good way to at least start, right?
Exactly. Or leveraging an AI to say, was this written by an AI? And the AI is like, yes, I think this was written by an AI with a 98%, right?
I think you can imagine. Then you'll have AIs talking to other AIs, and
that's happening now actually. And it used to be kind of a fun thing. Like it was almost like a fun thought experiment. But 5-10 years ago, like, oh, should we have AIs interacting with each other and hanging out and just learning from each other? But now we're actually leveraging techniques to do this, right? Where AIs like are adversaries to produce better results, or AIs can kind of check other AIs work and so forth. It's happening, man. It's wild.
Yeah. So, is some of the backlash that we're experiencing now, where you're seeing bad answers, you're seeing biases in answers, and there was another story that came up this week too, where a bunch of TikTokers went to the McDonald's drive-through where they were experimenting with AI. And if you haven't seen this yet, go onto this article in the show notes page. And it's these people that are trying to just order an ice cream cup. and the AI just keeps going, oh, would you like ketchup? Or I put ketchup in your order, or here's some sugar cubes, because they couldn't understand what the person was asking. And it's hilarious because obviously it just shows you the failures of the systems. But on the other hand, is backlash like this going to cause people to go, AI? Or they're going to go, oh, it's just a fad, and then or is it just sort of a little speed bump in terms of people?
Yeah, no. Again, so this is Yeah,
go ahead. Well, I was going to say, short attention spans being what they are these days, like you really have a limited amount of time to sort of go through with something to get to that next level of acceptance.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a very conversational AI there's been multiple waves of hype cycles around conversational AI, including Siri and Alexa.
Yep.
There are these waves, and then there's these troughs of disappointment, right? And despair, right? Like they're like, it's terrible. I can't use this. It's more, give me a button I can push. I want to use a touch interface. I don't want to talk to this thing. So when you look at McDonald's, so I'm actually very familiar with the McDonald's story.
Okay.
I actually was kind of in the runnings at one point to collaborate with McDonald's to produce their conversational AI for drive-thru. But they did an acquisition, and I'm also aware of the company they acquired to help create that experience. That experience is using the same old tech. It's using the Alexa set a timer tech, which is kind of this rules-based thing. That's why it does these silly things where you ask for an ice cream. Why is it asking for ketchup? It's because there's some if statement rule or some intent thing that will just take you to ketchup land. But you wouldn't see something like that. Yeah, like you wouldn't see something like that if a generative approach was used with enough data. Like if you had enough orders, let's say, and you saw the interactions and you were able to train a generative model, you wouldn't end up in a place where it says something so unlikely, right? Or so out of like whack.
Right.
And so what I would hope is all of the old tech that is not good and all the experiences that are terrible, like folks will just quickly understand, like be knowledgeable enough to know, oh yeah, that was that old, thing. And then they can recognize when something's good and it's part of the new phase of conversational AI technology.
Does that mean that like if you're going to develop this for a drive-through scenario that you're going to have to record all of these order calls and then you sort of have to tell your customers that you're recording, right? Like
I actually think so there's some, I think some of them are recorded. Like there are these data sets where they've recorded the orders and so forth.
Yeah.
So the data is there. It's the methodology as to how you use the data. Dude, guys, like one thing I want to make sure a lot of folks are aware, the core tech has been there for a while.
Yeah.
The innovation is on the methodology on how you train this tech, right? The transformer is old news, but how you train it and how you systematize it is what's really a lot of innovations are driving this forward. So that's the open question, right? So I think it's still, there's still some work, and I'm talking about months worth of research work or innovation lab work to take these technologies and come up with the right methodology to get that step function better experience, the ChatGPT grade kind of experience.
Yeah, an interesting part of the drive-through stuff too was probably the drive-through. Even with two humans, the audio quality you get from the speaker to half the time I can't understand the person that's asking me, what I want to order, or if they're ready for or not for the order. And then, and then on the other end, you're taking the order, you sometimes can't hear what it is. I mean, that's been mocked all the time. And then I'm starting to think that maybe in that algorithm that they have, they're like, if confused, just add ketchup.
Yeah, exactly. If confused, if I ask for ketchup,
that's gonna be my new band name. Is just add ketchup.
Just add. It's really hilarious, man. But
have you looked at the artwork stuff? Like the generative AI. Like that's what also impressed me too. Last year I saw some of the early DALL-E stuff, and the images that it was generating were completely horrible. But then at the end of the year, I did it again with DALL-E 2, I think it is. and the images are like, wow, it's actually getting closer and closer. Although it still can't generate good text. I don't know if you've tried it lately.
Yeah. No, and it's.
What are your? I'm just saying. What are your thoughts about sort of the generating visual arts? Because there's copyright issues, and that come.
There's a lot of public policy issues, and there's also a lot of dangers of like creating fake things that people think are real. But the thing is, there's this critical point when a technology changes the world. It's when it creates an environment where now there's a clear thing that's more convenient, or it makes people fundamentally more productive, right? And so technologies like DALL-E, and there's a lot of these technologies that are fascinating, and they're proof of what computers doing things we never thought was possible.
Yep.
I think they're fascinating, but unless there's the kind of like that market use case, I don't know how much. I don't know how much it'll fundamentally matter until it gets to the point where it now fits into our lives in a way that makes us better in some way.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a proof of what's possible with neural network tech and large amounts of data and enough money to use large amounts of data to train massive models. I mean, these models span hundreds, thousands of computers in size. Showing the art of the possible, I think is it's breathtaking to see what DALL-E can do, and we're going to innovate ways we can utilize it to advance our life experience. But yeah, I mean, I'm always shocked with DALL-E. I use it in my class. So in my class at University of Michigan, I teach a conversational AI class. I actually have one lecture all around diffusion networks. That's what really fuels the DALL-E type tech.
Yep.
And DALL-E and the possibilities with images. It's really game changing, right? From what we thought was possible.
Yeah. So I'm going to have you put your prediction hat on and say, like, where will we be in about a year? Like even 6 months from now. I mean, it does seem like this is being generated very, very quickly. So let's just go a year from now. Will we be having these same conversations, or will the conversations change in terms of, wow, there's so much available now, and like, where do you think we're going to be in terms of that hype cycle in about a year?
Well, so I mean, in a year's time, I think we're going to see refine, like Bing right now, the Bing experience, the ChatGPT experience in Bing, there's work to do, right? So we're going to see a polished and more robust this technology everywhere. The way we do search is going to fundamentally change forever at that point. Google is going to have their offering. The market's going to be disrupted. Stocks, somebody's going to survive this, and their stock is going to go up 20, 30%. And so that's what we're going to see when it comes to making this accessible for changing the way we search and find information and access information. But we're also going to see a flurry of new kinds of startups that are solving problems anew in interesting ways, right? We're going to see conversational AI being integrated into more use cases to ease our lives. And then we're going to see a lot of a lot of companies are going to revamp their self-proclaiming as an AI leader. So, I give this talk about the AI revolution. It was kind of cooling off, but this hype cycle is wild, dude. Like, because it gets bigger and bigger with every advancement. And so I think we're going to see a whole new ecosystem of technologies and products based around new kinds of conversational AI.
I can tell you, my prediction for 1 year is that I'll still be on the wait list for Bing.
Yeah.
They're gonna let you in, Jason. They're not gonna let me in. I'm bringing up the rear, so to speak. So, Jason, thank you so much for being on the show today. This is a fascinating conversation. I would love to have you back. We could just talk AI forever. So, thank you for being on the show.
Sounds good. Hey, a pleasure being here, and looking forward to chatting again soon.
All right. That's all the time we've got for today's episode. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and add any comments that you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.